time to review the Saturday papers. With us this weekend is Afia Hagan and Nikki Hodgson, who's here with me in the studio. Such a rare treat. Afia, great to have you with us as well. Thanks so much for getting up at this early hour. Let's kick off with the front page of the Mail, shall we? Nikki, to you first, if I may. A lot of the front pages leading, of course, on the mortgage crisis. Jeremy Hunt having that meeting with lenders yesterday, trying to agree on some conditions, this charter, to make it easier for people who are going to be struggling. Mixed reaction to that.
Yes, very much so. Basically, because Jeremy Hunt has met with, the banks, and this charter is not, it's not instituted by law. It is effectively optional. So it's been agreed that HSBC and Barclays will definitely adopt it, but we don't know what's going to happen with smaller lenders. So that's kind of the issue of this story. Obviously, people desperately need help. He's also struck a deal with the banks to say that he will give people a 12-month grace period from the date in which they miss a mortgage payment, if they do, until repossessions start. So he's creating a bit of space for people to cope with the rising inflation. The other option, of course, is to go onto an interest-only plan for 6 months. But this is just going to feel like too little, too late for so many people. You know, the rise in interest rates is going to cripple even more people with mortgages. And the government is adamant that they have to bring down inflation, so it feels tough, but we've got to tough it out. The reality is, if people are facing repossessions, we're going to have families on the street. It's going to have a knock-on effect on rentals. There's just so much to the story in terms of the ramifications.
Yeah, absolutely. Afia, your thoughts on this? I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? When I was looking at these terms that were being drawn up yesterday by Number 11, I was thinking, well, they say interest rates are going to stay high for a longer period of time than anticipated. So 6 months of just paying interest only won't necessarily help many people.
No, it won't. And this is actually going to be a huge long-term problem. When we saw the bubble burst in the housing market in 2007, 2008, the ramifications of that were felt for years. And it's going to be the same case here. But we have a Prime Minister who's promised that he's going to halve inflation by the end of the year. Whether that's politicking and whether that will actually happen remains to be seen. He's also walking this tightrope between keeping inflation down, and to do that he has to keep interest rates high, because essentially we need to have less money in our pockets to spend so that inflation can fall. And it's like Nikki so rightly said, we're being told that we have to tough it out and it's going to be hard for some time, but that is not going to ease the pressure on households, some of which have seen their mortgages rise by £600 overnight, and some people will plainly just not be able to afford it. And this is also going to have an effect on the rental market. Rents are probably going to go up because landlords will have more to pay on their mortgage, which could see people forced out of rental properties, which could see people on the street. So this is going to have a huge effect and a huge ramifications all across the board, actually. But like I said, we are walking this tightrope between trying to keep inflation down. So basically, we're being told that we need to have less money in our pockets. So it is really, really difficult.
Yeah, the front page of the FT Weekend, unsurprisingly, also leads on this. Their headline, banks to delay repossessions for 12 months. So that may offer some reassurance to people who are concerned about losing their homes because they can't afford to pay their mortgages. But certainly if you're in that position, I can't imagine it's a huge amount of comfort.
No, it's cold comfort. It's got to be, hasn't it? I mean, 12 months goes very quickly. And more than that, and then what? Exactly, so where do you go after that?
Right, let's talk about the front page of the Times. I found this really interesting, this story. Of course, a lot of what the government and the Bank of England are saying is that inflation is being driven by this high wage growth that they've seen in the private sector. Now, the Times, their front page this morning, is saying that in light of that, the government could block the 6% pay rises of public sector workers in order to deal with this inflation issue, going against what pay review bodies are recommending. I mean, it seems extraordinary. We haven't been able to stand this story up ourselves yet, but that is what the Times is reporting this morning.
I mean, it just seems, if it's true, it seems extremely controversial, and this could very much backfire on the government. So basically, yes, Pay review bodies have recommended that public sector workers, including teachers, prison officers, doctors, police officers, should have a 6 to 6.5% pay rise, depending on their profession, for 23 to 24. Rishi Sunak and the government have decided to not listen to those pay bodies and overrule that recommendation, and they're going to freeze pay. It's important to say that the government has only ever ignored the recommendations of pay bodies 4 times in the past decade. It happens so rarely.
It seems surprising in light of that, right?
It seems very surprising, and it just, we're going into another election. It seems to me madness on part of the Tory government that they are going to risk more general action, general strike action, more general unrest. I mean, he's just hoping that the gamble pays off in terms of sorting out inflation, but this is going to feel a very bad taste for some people.
Yeah, and certainly 6% pay rise is still way below inflation anyway.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's move on to, let's change the subject slightly. Afia, front page of the Express, Prince William honouring his mother's legacy. What's that about?
Yes, well, this is Prince William launching what he sees as his life's work. It's going to be a major plan on tackling homelessness. So ahead of his mother's birthday on the 1st of July, he's going to launch this mission. Of course, he is patron of Centrepoint homeless charity and works with other homeless charities as well. And he sees it as his life's mission to tackle homelessness. Now, we don't know what the substance of the plan will be. And that's where the real questions are going to lie. Like with Princess Catherine's project on the early years, all the questions initially were, well, what are you actually going to do to tackle these issues? Now we know that the royal family have to be seen as politically neutral. So he's going to be about a convener of people, about bringing people together. He says in this piece that he knows that he's not an expert on policy. That's not what he's there to do. What he is there to do, in fact, is bring agencies together to tackle the issues of homelessness, why people are homeless in the first place, and of course a huge one, which would be building more social housing. Now that has to be in the plan for it to have any real kind of substance. But like I said, he sees this as his life's mission. He's quite nervous about launching it. It's going to go ahead in the next couple of weeks. And he first visited a homeless charity with his mother when he was 11 years old. And he's also talking about when he's going to talk to homelessness about homelessness with his children, Princess George, Louis, and Princess Charlotte, of course, as well. He visited a homeless charity when he was 11. He'll probably take them very soon. So it remains to be seen what's actually in this plan, what Prince William hopes to be able to do. And he has to really make this his life's work and his life's mission before he goes into the big job, before he takes up the reign of king, because then he won't be able to do things like this. So he has a plan in place. He has to execute it properly, but there has to be real substance in there to make an impact on homelessness.
Okay, Afia, thanks so much. Now, we were going to talk about the front page of The Guardian, but we're kind of out of time. Let's just show you the front page briefly. A tsunami of dangerous vapes flooding into the UK. We'll talk about that more in the next hour, but thanks both to you for that review. We'll see you again very shortly. Still to come on Sky News Breakfast, we'll have continuing coverage of the breaking news from Russia, where a mercenary leader is accused of trying to stage a coup. Now, President Putin is expected to make an address shortly, and we're going to bring you that as it happens. But certainly that developing news out of Russia overnight will bring you all the latest at the top of the hour.